Before we start, I'd like to make sure that everyone is signed in for this meeting in the back entrance to the room. If you've not, please do so because it must be on record. I'm Robert Tanner. The other board members are Scott Calhoun. And the other voting board member tonight will be Charles Fott. Rich Hauk is an alternate non-voting board member for this evening. I'd like to introduce the following members. We have Matthew Puz, Zoning and Development Officer, Julie Maggio, Assistant Zoning and Development Officer, Tim Zazula, Board Solicitor, Tamara Doxey, Court Reporter. After the presentation by the appellant, the board will hear from those in question of the appeal, those in favor and those opposed. Any documents or evidence that's presented must be kept for a period of 60 days for our records. After all the presentations are made, the board will recess. We'll then reconvene and make our decisions. The board has 45 days to render a decision, but they're usually made this evening. If you do not care to wait for the decision, you may call the zoning office in the morning after 8:30 a.m. I'd now ask that everyone please stand to be sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please answer, I do. Okay, the first appeal for this evening is 25-10, Paul Lugjanczyk. Sorry if I butchered that. For property located at 4366 West Ridge Road, seeking a use variance for limited lodging in the I-1 Light Industrial District.
Are we doing both?
That's what I was going to ask, because they're both the same thing.
I think we should, as long as they're okay with, as long as there's nothing different between the two.
Okay. We will hear testimony from also appeal number 25-11, since it seems like the similar characteristics, and we can separate those out accordingly if you're okay with that.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So, thank you for your time again, Attorney Aaron Sismarski, Attorney Ron Sismarski, client Solojak. The property before you, like you mentioned, we're going to do both together. They're both used for limited rentals. Due to its unique physical condition of the property and its use and restriction, the use requested would fit into not only the neighborhood, but it'd be an unreasonable a hardship on my client. One of the other key characteristics that we outline in the packets before you is that the slope of the condition of the property everyone knows who lives in that area, just goes straight down. So it's a limited use, really can't be used for much more than that. One of the other things is all the neighbors. I know we did put in here several letters and obviously several supporting members behind us. It's a benefit to the area, the way it's being used. It's used in a very respectful and appropriate manner as well. I did outline in this letter as well that not only do the neighbors not object, which is positive, has a positive impact on the community, but we did obviously outline the 5 points. Not only that it's unique physical characteristic or conditions, like I mentioned, it makes it previously approved for residential use. It's well suited for the limited lodging. And obviously the mixed use corridor right across the street. Obviously it's on a state route, and right across the street, you have the same or similar businesses. So it's really not going to impact if this is approved. So that's why we put this forward. And I don't know if you want me to continue to go into the other items as well. I'm more than happy to do that.
I think for the record, you should review them. Yes, please.
So need for the reasonable use as well for that condition, given the residential configuration of the building and its limited suitability for industrial purposes. The current zoning effectively renders the property underutilized. Variance is necessary to continue using the property in a reasonable, appropriate, and historically improved manner. The hardship itself is not self-created. The hardship has not been created by my client. He actually obtained the proper approvals from the township in 2019 and began operating the short-term rental legally and transparently for the community. The zoning change that made the non-conforming use occurred after the fact without any change in the property structure or operation. The other point, of course—
Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? So you obtained approvals.
Yes. In this packet, we have all the approvals. We worked with Matthew Pence, and we obtained all the certificates and other necessary approvals that the township required. My clients maintained and continued to get those approved. So anything that's been— I actually have in here, right behind the deed, all the certificates of approval are in here. They're properly maintained on file and paid for. So we made sure to put all those in there. So So anything that was necessary or anything that was asked, that's already been completed and done. So we wanted to make sure to do that. Is there anything else you'd like me to?
No, so Matt, can you speak to that? So these were approved, and then what's changed?
Okay, so the certificate of approval, looks like they converted the building into a single-family dwelling, which must have been permitted at the time in 2019. The other one, repairs by compliance order, I'm assuming that might have been a code enforcement infraction that I wouldn't have been necessarily involved with, but I would
Okay.
sign off on the certificate of approval. I don't necessarily see anything in here that states that I okayed a short-term or limited lodging at that time.
So what you're stating is these were okay to be a residential use, but not short-term lodging?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless I'm missing something in the packet.
I don't believe back in 2019 that there was necessarily anything in the zoning regulations that allowed or disallowed limited lodging at that time. I think there was a zoning update that happened sometime after that.
So the zoning update happened in 2022, where the township permitted limited lodging in certain areas. Prior to that, the township used the Slice of Life case out of eastern Pennsylvania regarding short-term rentals, limited lodging. Basically states that, and again, this is just a brief overview of that case, but it's basically that the short-term rentals are not conducive to residential districts, so it doesn't necessarily have to be prohibited in a residential district to strictly prohibit it. It's kind of, in this case, it's one of those times where the courts said that because it wasn't listed in the ordinance, usually that says it's permitted everywhere, but in this case, they said because it changes the residential characteristics of a neighborhood, because it's not specifically mentioned, that means it's prohibited. At least from my understanding of that court case.
Okay.
That's why obviously we're looking for the non-conforming use to get the exception.
What is a residential use permitted in an I-1? Or we're saying that's just non-conforming? Because it is a residential use and they have a certificate of,
Correct, yeah, it would be a now it would be a non-conforming use.
it was not I-1 before.
That would be my understanding.
Okay, yeah, just so I'm clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And like I mentioned, obviously the hardship not self-created. Just trying to think where we left off. I believe we're on the non-adverse impact on neighborhood or public welfare. The Airbnb has operated quietly and professionally, like I mentioned, without disruptions to neighbors or negative impacts to the area. In fact, we have letters from obviously other businesses and other landowners that are 100% in agreement, and they're here today as well, that it doesn't create an issue, and that because it's kept a high standard, it obviously fits into the area. Its continued use in the way will not alter the character of the neighborhood or negatively impact any of the adjacent properties, which is very important for everyone. The minimum necessary relief, the requested represents the minimum necessary relief to continue an already established use under the same conditions. Again, to not do so would create an unnecessary hardship on my client. There's no expansion or modification of the property that's proposed, only the ability to maintain a lawful, longstanding use that aligns with the structure, character, and the neighborhood center. So that's all we're really looking for. And both, to your point, both of these appeals, 2510 and 2511, are the same.
How long have you owned the properties?
4366, we purchased in,
Just this one right here. 4366, right there.
no, 1971 was, yeah, 4366 was 1971, and
I have the other.
4372 had it been lettered.
I have it in the packet, but I will. That was January 27th of 2014?
Yeah, 2014.
Yes. So the latter, the 4372 was in 2014, first one was in 1970.
What did they operate as prior to being Airbnbs?
Residential homes.
Okay. And did you live there, or did you rent them?
In 43, I have lived parts of my life in 4366.
Okay. And they're now both rentals via?
4366 also has a tenant in it, a month-to-month tenant who's now been there for 5 years. Is also a property manager for me for the 2 properties and manages 2 of the Airbnbs on my behalf as a co-host. So he's on property with the guests.
Okay.
Well, can I just ask him? Hey, Matt, I just want the board to understand clearly what happened in 2019. And upon my review of the documents that were submitted, it appears to me that prior to 2019, there was an occupancy certificate for industrial use at the property, and the property owner came to the township and sought an occupancy certificate for residential use. Is that correct?
My assumption, I shouldn't say assumption, but it says convert building into single-family dwelling, so there would have been a prior certificate of occupancy in effect before this was issued.
I can provide some context to that event, if you would like.
Sure.
After the last time that I moved out of the house, we had a short-term tenant in there for a little while, and then we rented it to a friend of my brother's, and they turned it into a beauty salon. If anyone remembers Studio Zeph, used to be in this location. And for whatever reason, something happened that caused someone from zoning to come down, and they condemned the property and kicked everybody out, including my friend who was living in one of the lower units at the time. They kicked everyone out and condemned the building because when the woman turned it into a beauty salon, she told me that she was going to do everything to code and everything was going to be done perfectly. She had to get a health department certificate and everything was going to be legit and good. And they did the conversion without getting any permits. And I was not being in a real estate development phase of my life. I was concentrating on our family HVAC wholesale distribution business and didn't realize that there was supposed to have been permits and inspections done in the process of switching that over into a business. So I had to go through the process of filing for this variance, or not this variance, the permit, to convert it back to a residential property so that I could put my friend with his disabled family, or son and his family, back into permanent shelter, because they had to seek temporary shelter elsewhere until we could get the conversion done, get the inspections done, and then once we got cleared, that's when they moved into the upstairs level and we put the second unit that he was living in prior into an Airbnb. which at the time, according to the research I had done, it was in that era still a okay thing to have in your residential property, an Airbnb, until that rule change or that court case said, unless it was specifically disallowed, it was allowed at the time. And I had checked with the zoning office to see, is it okay that I be doing this? Because I have been doing Airbnbs for a decade before that, when I had my kayak outfitting shop on Peninsula Drive. I had campers there that I had on Airbnb. And each step of the process back then, I made sure what I was doing was still allowed. And it was, unfortunately for me, my landlord sold that property to the state, who had no interest in keeping my business there. And so that's when we made the investment into turning this other property, 4372, into an Airbnb back then. Is when we began that work.
I guess that's the background. There you
Yeah.
go.
So there you go.
And Matt, would it be fair to say from the township's perspective, on and after 2019, the township had approved the property for a single-family use, correct?
Correct.
And that's kind of how it stands today?
Yes.
And so the issue to the board is, does that mean you can operate Airbnbs, or does that mean you can operate just a single-family residence? I think that's probably the issue before
Yeah.
us.
Not really an issue because they had multiple tenants.
Yeah. Do you want to-
So there's a distinction between, short-term and long-term.
Yep.
So under this, it could be a long-term rental. Nothing would preclude that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Aaron, do you want the same evidence for, that, the testimony and the documents you want submitted for both properties, I
Yes.
presume?
We have, obviously, we made 5 packets for everyone
Yes.
to review.
Okay. Do you have any further evidence to present?
Other than the people that we have here,
We'll give them a chance to speak.
yeah, they came here to talk about the support, so we'll allow them to talk as well. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Hi, Matthew Waldinger, 3608 West 26th Street. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Mill Creek Township. I believe Attorney Zazula pretty succinctly encapsulated the township's position. It does have an existing non-conforming use, which is single-family residential. Just wanted to make clear that the limited lodging is not considered an existing non-conforming use because it was never legally established. And so it, would be up to the applicant to prove a hardship in order for the board to grant the variance for limited lodging, because the homes still can be used as residences. But really the main point that I would like to impress on the board, or ask for from the board, is that if you do deem to grant a variance to the applicant for, and this will apply for both of these properties, much as their testimony did, we would ask that you would place a condition on that approval that the applicant has to comply with the township code in regards to limited lodging properties, such as registration, safety inspections, etc. The code itself, the way it's written, Chapter 70, Part 8, talks about the properties that operate in the areas where they're permitted having to follow those regulations. And so we feel like if a property that is approved for this use outside of that area should also have to follow those.
Okay. Thank you. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this, please approach, state your name and address.
My name is Gordon Evans. I own 4390 and 4412 West Ridge Road. Both have residences on. I've been there close to forever. I was born and brought there in 1957, when I was 2 days old. So I've been on the property a long time. I have no objection at all. I think it's something that's happened. I don't see any problems whatsoever. That area is very mixed use. It has retail, it has industrial, it has townhouses. I mean, every different type, mobile home park, everything in that area mixed together. And I just say I have no problem at all with him running an Airbnb out of that property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Joe Rengia from Joe's Gym. I think everybody knows me. I'm the neighborhood troublemaker. But everything's going good. Like he says, I agree with that. It's a mixed neighborhood, a lot of great people around there. I don't see any problem with what he's doing. I think he's following all the permits and everything fine. And I have nothing against it. I think it's a great thing just to keep the neighborhood positive all the time. That's what we're working on.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Anyone else? Would you have anything you'd like to say about anything that's been said or from the township's perspective?
The townships, we agree everything's a mixed use, and we're more than happy, my client's more than happy to comply with that condition.
Okay.
Because they want to make it the best possible place for the neighborhood, so.
Okay.
And one last thought that I would like to add for your consideration as far as why I can't just use the houses as a long-term, like yearly type residential situation, being that close to the main highway, and the one property has no backyard at all, so the only thing that makes that livable for my friend is that they have access to the backyard of the other property, and that we're using them kind of as together as one thing. And so to try and find someone who would want to live in a busy street with no yard and constant stream of contractor and semi-truck traffic rumbling by their house every day is just another reason to allow this variance to approve the short-term rental use for these properties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is appeal number 25-12, Alyssa Faulkner and Todd Lunger for property located at 836 McConnell Avenue, seeking a dimensional variance for a side yard setback in the R1 single-family residential district. Yes, please.
Get one that's not big. You want a big one, or do you want a regular paper size?
So this is fine?
I don't know what's easier to keep, if you have to keep it for 60 days, if you want it on a paper.
Do you
or
care?
a big one.
The small one would be more, it's easier for us to store.
Weird.
If we could at least pass it along, and get a feel, yeah. Okay, Thank
So
you.
we're asking for a 2-foot setback variance on the north side of our home's property line due to property size, unique physical or circumstances, including narrowness, and the current 7-foot setback zoning regulation. The proposed attached garage improvement would not be usable without the 2-foot variance for the property line. Our current detached garage does sit 5 foot from that same line, so the one that's there will be demolished, but it is 5 feet from that same property line. So we're asking to continue that 5-foot setback with the attached garage, ensuring that the proposed plan does not adversely affect overall character of the district, neighboring properties, or public safety. Additionally, the improvements are needed in order to meet ongoing physical limitations and the safety of a property owner's recent medical diagnosis and the ability to enter and exit our home safely during poor weather conditions, which we had a winter of that. We need a 10-foot door to be able to, if it becomes a point of, ADA, that we need to have some type of access for mobility assistant devices. The 10-foot door would be vital for that type of thing. And it's not possible without the 2-foot variance to do the garage attached.
So that's what you're asking for is the minimum of what you need in order to fit the door.
Minimum, my contractor wanted 3 feet,
Okay,
but we worked to make it make sense.
okay.
So this is our forever home, and it's what we would like to do so that we can live out our years in comfort and safety and accessibility to the home without outside elements.
Okay. And from reviewing the plan, the northern wall of the new garage is the same setback as the existing detached garage, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I know that we have a letter here. So this is the person across the street who's in favor of this. Have you talked with the neighbor that's on this side?
So the neighbor that was there passed away, and he gave the property to his niece in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
We haven't had a chance to speak with her because she's very rarely at the property. We were really hoping she was going to come over the holiday weekend because she usually does, and she didn't this past
Okay.
holiday weekend. So she's very nice. I don't see her having any issue at all, but
And as of right now, the property, I think, has, I'd say they're almost as tall as our house, like plants, like a hedge that would go the whole length of that wall.
Okay,
giant.
I can see that.
Is there anybody living in the house next door?
No, she comes in probably 3 times a year and kind of works on it a little bit.
We have an Eagle view if you wanted to see, like, it's a giant hedge that's,
We have that in our packet.
do you have the Eagle view?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Can I have your name and number just for the record?
My name, Alicia Faulkner Lunger. Todd Lunger.
Okay. Charles, you have anything?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I don't either. You? Okay, I think that's all we have for you now. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this? Okay. Moving on to our final appeal for the evening. Appeal number 25-13, Daniel and Deborah Ivarone for property located at 4645 Kalen Court, seeking a dimensional variance for a side yard setback in the R1 Single Family Residential District.
Good evening. My name is Dan Ivarone. This is my wife Debbie. We live at 4645 Kalen Court, Erie, Pennsylvania. We built a house in 2012. Lived there since the building, okay? I'm here. First of all, I asked my neighbor before I even did this variance if it was okay with building the garage. My intent is to add a third bay onto my existing garage. What we should be looking at, for everybody to be on the same page, is the variance exhibit that I had Laird and Associates draw up for me, which tells the position of my house, tells me where I'm at, what we want to do. What I want to do is be able to put a 12-foot addition onto the side of my garage, which would require a variance because my setback would only be 5 foot, okay? And what we need to do, a 10-foot garage is just basically just too small and not practical. The 12-foot is the standard. So if you allow me to do the variance, we can put a 12-foot garage up and have that space. It's a single-family home which we built. I have nobody here that's given me any issues. Most of the people have been positive in the neighborhood. Mention that. Build it in, okay. The house was originally built with a 40-foot setback. I plan on, as you can see from the variance exhibit going forward, and will be well within the specifications. If you also notice from the variance exhibit, the stormwater management is going to be well within the limits required by the variance. Excuse me. I have a 639 square foot roof that'll be added, and by the time we're done, we're well below the 1,500. Let's see, what else do I want to say here?
Just so we're stating correctly for the record.
Sure.
You said it was originally a 40-foot setback, looked like 40.1 feet setback.
Correct.
And now what's proposed is right at the building setback line of 30 feet,
That's correct.
right? And then for the side setback, requirement 7 foot, but it's 4.8 feet that's proposed?
Correct,
Is that
yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
I think you said 5 feet. I know you're talking in round numbers, but just.
Yeah.
So we're proper for the record, 4.8 feet is what's
Well,
proposed
the house
on.
is scooched over a little bit.
on the
that's
plan,
all.
yep.
Yeah. This is, what confused me originally is when I went down here and talked to the zoning officer. I grabbed the original drawing to the house, but then I had Laird come out and do that.
Sure.
Then we know exactly where everything is, and there's no issues from what I can see from my neighbors, and the 12-foot garage would be a definite plus. Plus allow me to take the groceries out of the car without doing it in the rain and the snow. That'd be nice.
Have your neighbors expressed any concern about your construction?
About what?
Have you talked to your neighbors about,
Oh, absolutely. They're very complimentary, because I'm the guy that fixes everything on the block for them. So it gives me enough room to bring their snow blowers in when it's blowing out and those kinds of things. But no, it's been very positive. And it'll be done right, because I had, you probably have your drawings, I had Frontier draw up a sketch so that it'll be aesthetically appealing to the neighborhood and, of course, my wife. It'll look right. I have a full-scale drawing here if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I can see
Okay,
we have one in
okay.
our packet as well.
Just making sure we're all on the same page and
We've got a
you're
last
happy.
one here. I understand it all. Do you have any questions?
no, I have no questions, no.
Can you build a 10-foot garage there?
Without a
Is
variance.
that an option?
Actually, it'd be a little under 10 foot, yeah.
I mean, as far as your, if this were denied, would a 10-foot garage work for your,
Pulling your mirrors in, making sure I don't hit the side of the walls. Can't get out of your car because your door's going to hit. 10-foot garage, the 12-foot garage width is the standard of the building industry. And I wanted to stay within that.
okay,
Again, you know, my neighbor Lossy, Paul Lossy, who's going to be favored on that side, which is noted in that variance exhibit, He's the first person I went to before I even started this project. I says, Paul, if you got a problem, let me know. He says, no. In fact, I saw him today, just to make sure.
Tim? No questions. Okay. I don't think we have anything else for you right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this? Please come on up.
My name is Tina DeGello. I live at 4912 Old Sterretania Road. So Caitlin Court, that is a cul-de-sac, and all those backyards line up against my backyard. I got a letter in the mail, that's why I'm here, because there was a variance for the property behind me, so I had no knowledge of what the construction was or if it would impact my backyard. So between that cul-de-sac and my backyard is this strip of green. So there are trees and bushes and everything there, and I do not see those, at least in the summertime, I don't see those backyards. So I actually came here to figure out what the construction was, and really my concern is that construction coming backwards into that green strip because I don't want it to, or is it going on the side of your house? So I came here for understanding. I have no idea exactly what the construction was, but I did not want it to impact that green space.
And he can show you on the map where it is. It is to the side and to the front.
Yeah, we're staying even with what I have. Right here. All I'm doing is taking the garage and going out to the side.
Where's your front yard?
Right here. Here's the street, yeah.
Okay, so you're going this way, not
No,
this way?
nope, nope.
I'm good.
Okay.
Could you tell me who owns that green strip behind me? Who's responsible? Does the township own that? Or does, well, when last I seen on a plot map, Readingbrook Construction owned it, which went out of business?
That would have been the original developer, so it's probably a green area for the neighborhood in often cases.
So the
It's right-
township does not own it behind your property?
Do you know that?
That's a 15-foot drainage easement according to Laird, right here.
Yeah, there's more than,
Well, 15 my side, 15 your side.
oh, 30,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, well,
And you know, I
this
got
is
the
not-
most trees on the block, too,
Yeah, you're further, yeah, you're a little further up.
okay?
Yep.
So I respect nature, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Good.
I want to keep my trees. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You okay?
All set. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to take a brief recess, and if you'd like to stay and wait for our decisions. If not, you can contact the township office tomorrow morning. Okay, let the record show we reconvened at approximately 6:47. On appeal number 25-10, Paul Lukjanczyk, for property located at 4366 West Ridge Road. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions of the limited lodging as per the request of the township be adhered to.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-11, Paul Lukjanczyk, for property located at 4372 West Ridge Road. Do I have a motion?
I move
Well,
to
that will
accept.
be approved, condition on the limited lodging request per the township.
Yeah,
Do I have a second?
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-12, Elisa Faulkner and Todd Lunger for property located at 836 McConnell Avenue. Do I have a motion?
I move to accept,
Make a motion.
approve. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-13, Daniel and Rebecca Ivorone for property located at 4645 Kalen Court. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve. I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved.